Hello everyone, I am the Desert Gardener, and today I have 10 cheap, if not free, ways to improve your soil health. So I've got my tea, let's get started. Now I'm probably not going to go back to doing weekly videos like I was doing before, but I do think I want to do occasional videos when I come across something that I think is really interesting or really important. And I think that's the case with soil health. I think it's one of the most important things to have a successful garden, and one of the most overlooked things. So a while back I did a video where I talked about different fertilizers. And I still stand behind that video. I think it's a good one. I'll link to it down below if you missed it. And I talked about a bunch of different fertilizers and fertilization methods. But what I didn't really talk about is the soil health. Now, we've probably all heard feed the soil, not the plants. But a lot of people I don't think fully understand what that means and how the process works. So let's talk about that now. So let's say you're at your home store and you buy some fertilizer like this Job's organic stuff here. This is a granular fertilizer, but a lot of people think that if you spread this in your garden and then you water, that it dissolves and your plant absorbs it. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't really work like that. If you read the back of the label, you'll see that some of these ingredients are water soluble, in which case it does work like that, but most of the ingredients are not, which means it first has to be broken down by the microorganisms in your soil. Now let's say, for example, that I have this tablespoon here and I take some garden soil. There will be more microorganisms in that 1 tablespoon of soil than there are humans on the entire planet. So you can see there's a lot of life in there, and taking care of that life is very important. Now they will eat this stuff, and what happens is they excrete fertilizer, or they poop out fertilizer, and they also eat each other, and there are a number of different types of microorganisms that are in there. So it's a whole microbiology that's going on there. The important part is we need to feed that microbiology, and although they will eat this stuff, it's not really what they prefer. So let's say, for example, instead of this, you go to your home store and you buy one of those really high NPK chemical fertilizers, like one of the ones that say 10-10-10 on it. Now, this is a fully water-soluble chemical fertilizer. So when you put that in the soil, your plants actually absorb that right away. And your plants will love it. They'll grow big and strong right away. But there's no food for the microorganisms in there. And worse yet, that those chemical fertilizers are primarily salt-based. So the salt begins to build up in the soil and will actually start to kill your microorganisms. So you're trading a short-term boost for your plant for long-term damage to the soil. And that's really not a good idea. Now, if you're doing hydroponics or solely in containers, it's probably no big deal. But if you're doing raised beds or actually planting in your garden soil, that is really a bad idea. You're killing off the most important part of your soil, and not only doing long-term damage to your garden, but to the environment as well, as that stuff begins to seep into the water table, and it's really not a good idea to use. Now, this is a lot better, but it's more of an even push. So the microorganisms will eat this and will poop out fertilizer for your plants, but it's not really what they prefer to eat. And let's talk about what they would prefer to eat. So compost. They prefer to eat organic material. So compost is really the best thing that you can put in your garden soil, because that's what those microorganisms prefer to eat. The more they eat, the more they reproduce, the more they begin eating each other, the more they poop out fertilizer for your plants. So compost really is the best way to go. Now, what's next? Now, the next one is worm castings. Now, worm castings is really great for improving and raising those numbers, because worm castings have a lot of microbiology in them, or microorganisms in them. So when you put that in your soil, you're actually raising the number of microorganisms in the soil. Plus, the worm castings are water soluble and your plants will eat them right away. So it's sort of a double whammy there. Your plants will love it and the soil will love it. So it's really a fantastic thing to add. So the next one is worms themselves. Now you can go to most pet stores and they will sell you a little container of worms. Get the biggest ones they have, the earthworms, the red wigglers, the night crawlers, things like that, anything that's really big. Now they'll crawl around in the soil, they'll aerate the soil for you, and they'll poop out more fertilizer for you. Plus the slimy stuff on the outside of a worm, the microorganisms love that stuff. It's like candy to them. So again, we're feeding that soil and improving the health of the soil just by adding some worms. Now the next thing is watering. Now a lot of people make the mistake that at the end of the year when their summer crops die, they'll pull them out and they'll turn their watering off. There's nothing growing in it, so why water it? Well, it's those microorganisms that we need to keep alive. So we need to keep the environment the same. If we stop watering it, the environment changes and many of them die off. So keep watering your garden even if there's nothing in it. And the next one is cover crops. Now we don't want to let that garden sit bare. Don't let soil bare in your garden, be bare in your garden ever. So planting a cover crop like hairy vetch is a very common one people use as a cover crop. You just buy the vetch seeds, sprinkle them at the end of the season. They'll grow these nice little plants, and it actually will provide nutrients to the soil and cover the soil at the same time. And you don't have to get rid of them. At the start of next year, just mow them down and plant your tomato plants right in it. You don't have to get rid of them. Now a lot of people will say, well, won't they steal nutrients from the soil and away from your plants? Well, a little bit, but you're doing so much good for the soil and improving the soil quality so much. There's plenty of nutrients to go around, so you don't have to get rid of them. Now the next one is mulching. If you don't want to use a cover crop, you can mulch. Now there are hundreds of different things you can use as mulch. Now I really like wood chips myself. They're very affordable, easy to get, and as they break down, they'll actually also improve your garden soil. It'll put nutrients in the soil. So I really like wood chips above anything else. And the last one is to not till your soil. Now when you very first create your garden, sure, no problem, dig it up. But you should never dig up your garden again. A lot of people in the old days used to get a rototiller out there and they'd stir everything up and loosen up the soil. But it's been shown that doing that actually kills a lot of those microorganisms and the worms that are in the soil. And that can do long-term damage. So, and then you'd have to start all over. So don't do that. So let's talk about the cost of each of these. Now remember I said most of these can be done completely for free. So let's start with the first one. Now you can buy compost in a home store, but most of you probably already know that you can make your own compost. And it's pretty easy. Just take kitchen scraps, garden scraps, lawn scraps, leaves from your fruit trees, pretty much anything, coffee grounds, even dryer lint works. Just throw it all in there, water it, and then turn it once a week, and you'll have plenty of free compost to use. Now the next one I talked about was worm castings. Now they're pretty expensive to buy in the store, but you can make them yourself. You buy a worm bin, you buy some worms, and after that initial expense, they start producing worm castings for you for years. And you get a lot of worm castings for pretty much free. Now the next thing I talked about was worms themselves. Now you can buy them relatively cheaply, but you can also farm them for free. I saw this really cool video a while back of this gal in, I think it was Puerto Rico, and she was having a summer storm. She put on a bathing suit, grabbed a little bucket, and walked around the sidewalks in her neighborhood and picking up worms. As you probably know, when it rains, worms will come to the surface. So she was just picking them all up. After a little while, she had quite a bucket full of them, took them back to the garden, let them loose, and she had a lot of free worms. Now the next one we talked about was cover crops. Now hairy vetch is a good idea, but there are even cheaper options. I recently was told that a good option for this is to go to the 99-cent store and buy black-eyed peas. You can get a couple of pounds of them for like 99 cents. Spread those in your garden. They'll actually grow and create a cover crop for you. Now the next one is mulch. Now we talked about wood chips. Now most of you probably already know you can get wood chips for free by calling an arborist or using like chipdrop.com or something like that. Now the only downside to doing that is you're going to get a rather huge pile of wood chips dropped off in your driveway one day. So you're going to have to spend the day with a shovel and a wheelbarrow loading them up, taking them to your garden or wherever you need, and you're going to also have to have space to store the extras. Now maybe you have some friends come over and they take some, but you still often end up with a lot of extra and a lot of work. So I've actually come up with something I think is a little better. So when an arborist has a load of wood chips, they're actually required by law, if they don't give it to a client, they have to take it to an authorized dump site, a landfill. And they have to pay to dump it there. And many arborists don't like to do that. So they have a tendency to dump them illegally in empty lots and along dirt roads and stuff like that. And maybe this isn't available everywhere, but I've noticed as I've been driving around the area where I live, I have found dozens of illegally dumped wood chip piles. So what I've been doing is taking a storage container, like a 18-gallon tote, I put it in my trunk with a little folding shovel, and on my way home from work, I just swing by, fill up that tote, put it in my trunk, drive it home. And I only had to make about 8 or 10 trips before I was able to completely fill the garden, fill all my containers, put a bunch in my compost piles, and still have a container left over. And I don't have to find any place to store it because it's already in this container, so I have a little extra. And if I need a bunch more, I just go back to those piles. And I'm actually getting rid of something that was illegally dumped. And of course, if you see an arborist doing this, go ahead and report them. They're not supposed to be doing this, but if they are doing it, might as well scoop it up and make good use of it. Now, these are all pretty much free ways you can get all these things to improve the soil health of your garden. Now, there's one last thing I wanted to talk about, and it's kind of the main point of this video. And a lot of people really swear by using compost tea. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard about it. There's literally hundreds of videos on YouTube showing you how to do it. Basically, you take compost, you put it in a bag, you put that in some water, you put in some sugar or molasses, you have an aerator and a bubbler, and it aerates the whole thing, and the sugar makes those microorganisms that are in the compost, they make their population explode. So before you know it, you have literally billions and billions of these microorganisms in this tea. And the idea is you add it to your soil, and now you're raising the number of microorganisms in your garden. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Because you use this high oxygen and high sugar environment to create these microorganisms, as soon as you put them into your garden and the environment changes, they can't live. They all die because the environment changed too quickly. You have to create these microorganisms in an environment that more similarly matches the environment in your garden. Now, fortunately, there is a really very easy and cheap way to do this. Now, a lot of people are calling it the Korean method because a guy in South Korea was the first, I think, to invent it, and he's really popularizing it. It's starting to really take off here in the States. And basically, and I'm not going to go over the whole method. What I think would be a better idea is just put a link to the video down below of the actual inventor of it, him talking about how to do it. Now the narrator of the video has a bit of an accent, but I think you can make out what's going on. And basically the idea is he takes something that's relatively free, and that's potatoes. You can grow your own potatoes. A leaf litter, you can put leaves on the ground and create your own leaf litter as well. The only thing you have to buy is sea salt, and sea salt is pretty cheap. You put it in water, you don't put sugar or molasses, you don't aerate it, and you put it actually out in your garden so the temperature is matched as much as possible. Now the microorganisms begin to reproduce, and then when you add those into the soil, because the environment is more similar, they'll actually survive, and you're increasing the health and the microbiology in your soil. And this works much better. And it's pretty much free, and it's completely scalable. So the home user can do it. Even the commercial farmer can use it. You can just simply scale up the size and spray it on your crops. And one of the reasons I want to talk about it is because it needs to be more widely adapted, because all the chemical fertilizers the commercial farmers are using are really damaging the soil and the environment. This is something that's free, doesn't damage the soil at all, in fact improves it, and it's really a great thing to do for everything concerned. So I'm going to link to that down below, and you can check it out. He not only talks about how to do the compost tea, but how to do a free version of a water-soluble fertilizer and a free version of a water-soluble insecticide. And they're all good for the environment, and they're all basically free to use. So that's everything I wanted to talk about. So I hope you got something out of this. If you did, please like and subscribe. And I do plan on making another one where I'm going to talk about overwintering peppers. Is it really worth all the time and trouble that it takes to do? So I'll see you then.